Just got a delivery, guys. It's looking like I might have all my wheel bits and pieces. Let's get the box open and have a look what I've got. Very exciting guys. Let's have a bit of a closer look. So it's looking pretty good. I'm very happy with how they've turned out. All the sizes appear to be correct and everything is in line with what I've ordered. The only hiccup currently is they forgot to send all the new hardware out, but apparently that's getting sent out here express pretty much straight away. So now it's just paint the centers, reassemble them, throw some tyres on, and we might be able to get them mounted up on the car and see what they look like. Very exciting indeed. So I finally got my finger out and painted these wheel centers. I painted them here in the Aussie shed. They've been painted in a 2-pack satin black with maybe 3 coats of epoxy primer underneath them because there was quite a heavy texture on the aluminium once the wheel centers had been cleaned up, that I had to fill over and then sand down to get a really nice finish on the centers. That's sort of one of the reasons why I didn't get them powder coated. I just didn't think powder coating would have given a nice enough finish for what something like this deserves, without being able to get a primer underneath and rub it right down to get a nice smooth finish. I just don't think it would have done the wheels justice. So yeah, I'm pretty happy how they turned out. I think they turned out looking pretty nice. I've gone for a satin black just because I really like the contrast that it sets up with the silver. I looked into charcoals and gunmetal grey metallics and things like that, and gloss finishes and satin finishes, and basically I just kind of, after looking at so many different pictures and so many different wheel images and everything, I just thought, nah, good old satin black, can't beat it. Good heavy duty 2K, and it'll be absolutely fine. So this is the last of the wheels that I have to assemble, and it's one of the original fronts that still has the tyre on there. I've left the tyre on there just because it helps me being able to push the car around when it's at that stage. There's nothing wrong with the tyres that are on there. I won't be using them, of course, because they're too old when the time comes to get the car on the road. But as far as being able to set the car up with them on there, they're just perfect for that sort of thing. So all the work on these rims, these front rims, has been done with the tyre still attached. So all the cleaning up, paint stripping of all that blue metallic paint that was on the inside of those rims has been done with the centers out, obviously, and with the tyres kind of still on there. And that satin aluminium finish that you can see on there has just been done with various sandpapers. Not that hard to do, just sort of time consuming. The rim on the other side, I just repolished that here in the shed with various polishing tools, and it came up pretty good. And then the centre has just had the same treatment as all the others. New hardware, new valve stems and everything are going in. Bit of a delay with the hardware, as I mentioned before. They've, like everything you get, mate, nothing seems to go smoothly. Instead of taking a day or two, they took like 2 weeks for the nuts and bolts to get here. And I'm still having trouble with my valve stems. They sent me the wrong size valve stems, so I've still sort of got that to deal with. But anyway, assembling the wheels, quite tedious. See here, I am using blue Loctite on all of the bolts, so it's just a matter of doing, putting a dab of blue Loctite on half a dozen or so of the bolts, and then whip the nuts on by hand with an extension and a 10mm socket. They're M7 stainless bolts, and there are 40 of them. So typically 3-piece wheels like this with this higher bolt count don't need welding. Often when you see people rebuilding 3-piece wheels, they might be welded, or if they're stripping them down, you might see them actually cutting through welds to get them apart, even though they are bolted. And all of that depends on the bolt count and spacings between the bolts, etc. But typically a rim like this that doesn't have any gaps and has a 40 bolt count, no welding is necessary at all on them. It's just simply a bolt together and seal process. So once I work my way around getting all these nuts run on the back there, I'll just whip over it with a ratchet or a couple of ratchets, one on each side, and just get them done up, you know, firmly hand tight with a couple of ratchets, and then we'll put it down on this crappy wobbly table that I'm using and go at it with a torque wrench. And I'll torque it up in 2 stages. I'll run around it the first time with a you know, sort of a medium torque, and then I'll put the final torque on in the last stage. So when I'm torquing these bolts, look, you don't have to be that regimental about it, as long as you work in some kind of a, you know, backwards and forwards pattern. Go, you know, 180, 90 degrees off to the side, split them up, star pattern, anything like that. It all kind of works, as long as you're fairly systematic about how you do things and don't do anything really stupid, like start with the thing really loose and then start putting a heap of torque on something with the center sitting cockeyed. Do what I've done here, just go around, get it all snugged up nice and firm by hand so that it is all sitting in position without just being really loose anywhere. And then you can start working in a star pattern and then just sort of chasing that around the wheel. And once you get, you know, half, 2/3 of them in, then you can start, you know, do one, skip one kind of thing, work your way around and then sort of reverse back on that, and then just kind of whip around finally, doing every one just to check that you have got them all to a nice even torque all the way around. And then it's a matter of just upping your torque on your torque wrench and repeat the process until they're all done. It is quite time consuming, but it is kind of one of those bloody zen things as well. It's not a bad sort of a feeling doing it. It's not stressful work or anything like that. And it's very satisfying when you get your wheels that you've put all this effort into finally together at the end of it, and you can have a bit of a look at them. Alrighty, so one of the next things that we need to do here on these new rims is we need to now seal up this join here. Now, before I join these two halves of the rims together, I cleaned them up quite a bit, deburred all the holes so they'd go together nice and neatly, just inspected them to make sure there was nothing that was going to create any problems and stop them seating properly, and I cleaned them both surfaces with acetone to get them really nice and clean. It was a couple of days ago now, so I might give them another clean, and what I'll do now is I'll clean this with some brake cleaner and a rag and just kind of get that all nice and wiped out in there. Generally you want to use something that's going to evaporate really thoroughly so you don't risk trapping anything in there. So I'll give it a clean and then I will mask up either side of this join so that we get sort of a nice finished bead with our silicone. That's the silicone that I'm using there. It's just a roof and gutter silicone. The roof and gutter silicones are really good because they're neutral cure and they stick really well to metals, and they're kind on metals as well, which is sort of the whole point to them. It says it's for aluminium, so yeah, that's all good. So I'll get this clean, mask it up, and we'll get stuck into it. Alright, so generally with this sort of stuff, keeping the nozzle fairly square to what you're trying to get it into will give you the best result from trying to actually squirt it right into the crevice. So just like welding, guys. So basically what I'm doing is a root pass with the silicone, getting it right into the root of the join. And after I do that, I'll now go over it and fill it right up. Alright, so that should be ready to untape. I'll find out where my bloody joins are. Oh, there's one. A wheel roller would be handy, I tell you. I'm just going to end up getting covered in silicone. But that's alright. I'll live through it. And there it is. One join. One wheel joined. Joined and sealed. Looks pretty good to me. Alright, I'll get the next one done. I might even sit one of these on the car for a bit of a look. Well, we're getting there, guys. At least you can sort of start to see what it's going to look like. Obviously it'll look a little bit different when it's got a tyre on it and the blue protective film's gone, and those gold wheel nuts have been replaced by some black ones. But you kind of get the idea. It's starting to look the business. Starting to look the business. Alright, let's head back up to the front. Alright, well that was a bit of fun. At least you got to see the process that I follow to rebuild three-piece wheels. There's a million videos on YouTube about how to rebuild three-piece wheels. They're all kind of the same, but then again they're all slightly different as well, depending on what wheels they are and all that sort of thing. But that's what I've done anyway, guys, so you can just use that as a bit of a rough guide. You shouldn't go too far wrong. Hopefully I'll have the right valve stem soon, and I'll be able to get some tyres on those wheels to you know, get it sitting on the ground and get a bit better a look of how it's going to sit and how it's going to work with guard clearance and suspension clearance and all that sort of stuff. But for now, that's about all we can do with it. So what I'd like to do next week is go over the whole car, because I don't think I've actually shown you guys much of the car reassembled. Like, I don't think you've even seen it with glass in and all that sort of stuff. Like I say, it's fairly complete on the outside now-ish. Even a lot of the interior's back in, so it's sort of starting to look like a car again. So I think that's what we'll do. All right, guys, As always, thanks for stopping by the Aussie Shed. Always a bloody pleasure to have you here. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And as always, guys, I'll bloody well see you on the next one. Cheers.